Please welcome Deborah Flint, who's the Chief Executive of Toronto Pearson International Airport. Lovely to have you here. There's a microphone just next to you. Perfect. Welcome. Nice to see you. There's a lot we've been discussing today about the role that airports play in this transformation, and we'll come on to sort of digital in a minute, but I know that you also have your LIFT project. Talk to me a little bit about that, because it's a big capital investment project. Where are you on that project right now?
Yeah, well, sure. Thanks. It's great to see everyone. Wonderful to be here at the festival in Amsterdam. So just a little context first about Toronto Pearson. Pearson is a large gateway airport for North America. Recently, Cirium produced its report on connecting airports. We're in the top 5 of North America's top connecting airports, and also ACI's #1 airport for large airports customer experience. So, we have a lot of strategic strengths and positioning for the airport, but at the same time, we're challenged. We had very significant challenges coming out of the pandemic, a long kind of era of pandemic policy that reflected a lot of fragmentation in the system. And so, what we've done with the LIFT, our long-term investment in facilities and terminals, is develop both a strategic plan that our vision is to put the joy back into travel by making the airport a great place to work, as well as for customer experience. And LIFT is really centered around that. It includes several terminal programs, interim terminal programs to address near-term growth, which I'm sure we'll talk about, and then a pretty significant larger terminal complex that will deliver over 20 million passengers of capacity. Significant renovation of our 2 existing terminals based on over 15 years where the airport ran in what we called a sweat the assets regime. So significant deferred maintenance and the need to modernize, and then airfield, et cetera, improvements. So we're very pleased that we've officially launched those programs. We are in the throes of selecting now our very first consortium to deliver the interim terminal and some of deferred project maintenance programs with a progressive design build contractor. And we expect to award and be, again, in contractual relationships with 2 further progressive design build consortiums by midpoint of 2025.
And you're doing all this against, quite clearly, a backdrop of growing demand. I'm looking at the numbers here, modeled to grow from sort of mid-40 million passengers to mid-60 over the next sort of decade by 2030. So as you've identified, it's a sort of short-term, medium-term, and long-term. I'm interested, first of all, in the long-term planning about, and there are parallels with other speakers we've had today about how you make those decisions now for what the future will look like. How do you make sure you get it right?
So we're also embarked on what we called our land vision plan, and that's the really get it right. And that is, of course, for airports, we develop and make decisions that are going to set the course of time for multiple decades, half centuries plus. And so we look at Toronto Pearson and we sit on land that is the size of Atlanta Airport, currently the world's busiest airport. I know Dubai is building to 260, so that will be a great sport to watch. What we recognize is that with the vision plan, what we ought to be doing is ensuring that over the course of those decades, the airport does not preclude any of its future ambition because of the inappropriate placement of facilities. And so that is what I would say, it's a chess game, maybe not necessarily the Queen's Gambit, because that might be too aggressive, but a chess game to ensure that as leases and opportunities present themselves, we're positioning all the core functions of the airport in a way that enables all of that future potential and ambition. So vision plan is #1 on the long term. And we've embarked on that with a great consortium team, and we'll get those results over the course of next year. That then enables the more midterm and the near-term infrastructure plan to...
And I want to talk about the interim sort of terminal in just a sec, but am I right in saying you've got 5 runways at Pearson?
Yes,
to the point that you may take one out, one that is underused, and that's part of your big chess game, isn't it? Of sort of working out, can you afford to lose that and use that more productively for something else? What might that something else be?
Well, again, there are many opportunities, right? Most airports we're looking at cargo development, but also the future of services. I think the way that we'll think about that is, what does future digital capabilities enable us to do? So, many airports around the world have decommissioned crosswind runways because aircraft capabilities are different today than they were before. So what level of risk is now going to be mitigated through technology to enable maximum use and reconfiguration of airfield? So, we don't have a position at all on the future state of our runways. That is work that is underway and will be contemplated, certainly from a vision plan perspective. And then, of course, the master planning process, which we need to deliver in the next few years.
So the interim terminal is something that may give you a bit of breathing space. How much breathing space, and how interim is it? Are we going to find, 10 years from now, actually, it becomes one of your main facilities?
Oh yeah, I think I built interim terminals back in Oakland and certain facilities in LAX decades ago that are still existing today. So most airports know that when you're building interim terminals, build them in a way that's going to flex for a long time. What I would say about that is the interim terminal isn't going to bring capacity near quickly as enough as I need it, right? So, right now we're going to be approaching what was our peak in 2019 of 50 million passengers. But now those facilities are 5 years older and passengers are different. We've had a lot of conversation this morning about the changing in customer experience expectations. We need to deliver on that. So, one of the challenges, and really looking for partnerships here with technology and digital tools, is how do we deliver growth today in our constrained environments, even increasing by 2, 3, 4 million passengers a year, which is our current situation, and yet maintain the customer experience, maintain and improve upon the employee experience as well. So interim terminal will deliver 5 to 10 million passenger volume, but I'm not going to be able to get an interim terminal facility developed and delivered for at least 2 more years. Again, the consortium that we picked to work with us, one of our key incentives is how can you deliver those the future infrastructure in a modular, flexible, and speed is our currency at Pearson today.
And technology, we know, will play a huge role in that. And the conversation I had with Peter about the relationship between Schiphol and KLM, you have a sort of similar relationship with Air Canada. It's your dominant, airline. But the rules are different, aren't they, around things like information sharing in North America? And, we talk about this seamless passenger experience, that everybody's sharing everyone's data to make sure you can pass through the airport very quickly. That's not necessarily true for you, is it? That's sort of a bit of a stumbling block.
Oh, it's quite interesting, and this is not purely on a comment on Air Canada, but as we really looked into the fragmentation and limitation of information we were receiving, particularly post-pandemic, we found it very interesting that numerous carriers were providing information in Europe that they refused to provide in North America. And so, we need to work more cooperatively as an ecosystem with our agencies, with the federal government, and harmonization across the industry. Right? There's really little tolerance by customers and passengers for all the differentiation that takes place within countries between one airport and another, and certainly between countries as well. So I do find that, the programs we put into place, we have a Pearson standard, but just also a more collaborative environment that exists today. Maybe one of the positive impacts from the post-pandemic challenges is that there is more cooperation and intention to work more seamlessly as an ecosystem. But data integrity, data protection, privacy protections, competitive environment, all make the data sharing in a interconnected network very challenging. I will say that is our ambition for the future. Like, we want to see pure, like the next generation of total airport management, ACDM, and a highly integrated, interconnected airport system.
Because clearly, from a passenger point of view, they've handed over that information. That information is gone, and then it's how that data is being used. And I suppose, how optimistic are you that those barriers can be broken down in the way that they have maybe in Europe? And it's not about all of that data. Some of it can be anonymized, but it's about you being able to put that data to good use.
I think it's very challenging, but as a CEO, I have to be very optimistic and aggressive about believing that we can have a vision of a highly connected system and that we can make decisions before the events are actually right there and imminent to take place. And connecting what's happening in the skies to what's happening on the airfield, on the ground, and in the terminals, and also in our roadways as well, to provide a more seamless operation.
And the reason I ask is because you're able to use AI in the airport right now around existing infrastructure. So, monitoring cameras of where there are pinch points, where queues are building up. It almost strikes me that, you're sort of a step behind because you don't have that data. If you knew what plane was coming in, who's on and where they're going and who those passengers are, you are a step ahead, but you're sort of having to play catch up on that.
Look, that's the bane of our existence. But, I would say that our LIFT infrastructure program, we have a unique technology fund that is a set aside, which is to ensure that the traditional bricks, mortar, and other infrastructure common planes do not preclude our digital ambitions. And that is, I think it's inherent for Canada and Toronto. Toronto is has the godfathers of AI and significant technology advancement that has happened and will continue to happen in Canada and Toronto. So we see a very important future for digital adoption and ambition. And it can be something as simple as using AI to provide digital concierge, right, for the customer experience. That doesn't necessarily require a lot of privacy protections. Customers can pick and choose and have their menu of what they elect to share versus more advanced realms where privacy, cybersecurity become a bit more risk. But we do believe that there are opportunities that this industry can do together to protect both the airport as well as customer privacy.
And when you're embarking on projects like this, with the consortium and the planning for the future, sustainability is quite clearly a challenge as well. It's not a nice to have; it's mandatory. Talk to me about the phrase of sustainability in design. And I know at Pearson it's about circularity in materials. Just explain what that means.
Yeah, no, we do. We're absolutely looking at the typical principle of circularity and trying to reuse materials and facilities to the maximum extent possible. But we're also thinking about sustainability from the role we play and the stimulation effect that we need to have on the industry to meet its net zero, decarbonization, and also environmental stewardship targets and goals. And so, we're considering, Pearson as one of the future energy hubs to serve the market in a broader way. We have a strong track record of doing that already today. Our cogen facility is one that generates not just our own electricity, but we actually sell and help provide resiliency to the grid outside of the airport. We've begun a hydrogen hub, which is an initial trials with Carlson Energy. We are focusing on vehicle hydrogen utilization, but the plan is to be able to evolve that to eventually serve the airfield and potential future aircraft and other uses of hydrogen. And I expect that we're going to be doing other innovations around energy and what the role the airport and Pearson will play beyond just conversion of SAF, which is obviously one of the more near-term solutions for the sector.
So many conversations that we'll have over the course of this week are, thankfully, I think, hopefully, we're sort of beyond the COVID challenges, and we know that traffic is bouncing back, and airports and airlines are back on their feet. I wonder now that shift is into the future. What does design look like? What does innovation look like? What does technology look like in the way that we travel? If we were to sit here 12 months from now, what will you have achieved? What do you think will be different in this year? Because it feels like quite an instrumental year this year where, we can say, okay, fine, we've tackled the COVID thing, albeit with some legacy. This is a year we build back and hopefully build back better. What will it look like for you?
Well, very interesting. We have great big, digital ambitions from robotics and automation and personalization and all of these things and, flow through security, and we'll be, continuing to drive that trajectory. But we actually just are also focused on fundamentals. Within my own organization, it's how do we build organizational design that's going to support this level of rapid transformation and digitalization? Are we going to have AI managers that are deployed throughout the organization to manage how AI can be implemented. Thinking a lot about just what is the new structure of our organization to be able to enable such a rapid transformation and significant investment. So, next year this time, I'd expect that my organization will be ready for this level of digital transformation, for lift actually going into further design decisions and construction, and that we will have completed our technology roadmap. And so we are setting forth what is that technology platform that we need to embark upon that's going to be flexible. What does future-proofed really mean as it comes to designing our facilities so that they're modular? So what we do know is that whatever we expect in this industry, something different will probably hit us over the course of 50 years. The legacy is how do we build these facilities in a way that can adapt simply, and we don't preclude big opportunities and speed to harness opportunities or to mitigate threats over the future. So next year this time, I hope we would have completed our technology roadmap that presents that future.
Look forward to hearing about it. Deborah, thank you so much for being with us. I know you're going to stick around for the panel for us, aren't you? So we'll speak shortly. But ladies and gents, Deborah Flint, Chief Executive, Toronto Pearson International Airport.